Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Peeling Back the Label. Today we have a very special guest, Joan Koster, and today we're going to be talking about her book, Prairie Cinderella, and actually probably a few of the other books that are within the series. So stay tuned. Let me get her hooked up, and we're going to go. I'm just getting Joan hooked up right now. Yay!
Okay.
It worked! Yay! Hi, how are you, Joan?
I'm doing well. Glad to see you again.
Glad to see you too. And congratulations on the Amazon hot new release. I just was so excited. I was just like posting and I couldn't wait.
Yeah, I saw that this morning. That was a surprise, but it makes me very happy because I really want people to learn about Vinnie Ream and get her story out there.
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to talk about today is, what inspired you about the book? Did you come across any really cool things while you were researching? And uh, also discussing like what makes you tick when it comes to all these special women.
Okay.
So you got the floor. Let's talk about it. And can you show everybody your book? Do you have a book available to show?
It's
Yeah, look at
backwards.
that.
Okay.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful cover.
And that's her photograph. That's a real person.
Beautiful. Yeah, you always find such interesting people.
Yes, she's definitely interesting.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. So how did you come?
I brought my Vinnie
Oh, look at
Ream
that.
mug.
I love that.
Okay, so these are available for my
Are
raffle.
they available on your website if anybody wanted to purchase them?
No, I give them away in raffles. When I do takeovers and raffles, you get a
Oh,
chance to get
okay.
one.
So people need to sign up for your newsletter and then they might be able to get a hold of one of those cool mugs. Okay.
Exactly. And you can find my newsletter. It's called Historical Tidbits. It's at joankoster.com. And it's every month I write an article about another interesting forgotten woman. So you'd get an article about a forgotten woman in your mailbox.
Awesome. I love that. We need all these really cool women in our lives, no matter how far, how it happened, how many years ago. But because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be where we are today, right? As women.
Exactly. And also, it's just good to see other people who are striving and trying to follow their dreams and accomplish something. And
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what I get from doing all this research. I read about these women and I think, wow. And especially because many of them did them at times when it wasn't acceptable or were disadvantaged. For example, Vinnie Ream, who was very poor and grew up, well, she was born in a log cabin and grew up on the prairie. So
That's where you got prairie from.
well, that's actually what she was called at the time.
Mhm,
She was
mhm.
called Prairie Cinderella, among other things. But that was one of the things she was called.
Yeah, she was an amazing woman. I never really thought of any women, being sculptured way back when. I don't know why, I just assumed they were all men. And she kind of paved the way.
Well, she did. There were some other women sculptresses, which is actually an interesting thing at that time, because if you remember, this is the Victorian period, and you weren't even supposed to show an ankle. But but to be a sculptor of people, you have to know the naked body.
You're right. You're right.
So that was one of the problems for women becoming to become a sculptress, and so most of them actually went and lived in Rome because it was just not acceptable in the United States at the time.
So it was more acceptable in Rome, more in the,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to write about Vinnie? Like what inspired you? I mean, there's so many women you could have wrote about. So I'm just curious what really got you going with her?
One of the things that really interested me was that she was an artist, and I also was an artist. I was a fine artist. I was trained. I have a degree in art, and I was trained as a painter. But I did take a sculpting course, which I really, really liked. But I decided that I have very small hands, that sculpture would give me arthritis very quickly
Ah,
because carving we were doing alabaster, but still, lots of chiseling and things. So that interested me. But the thing was, as I studied her life, I realized that what happened to her also happened to me,
oh,
because she started out with great dreams, but she had no money. Her family was very poor, especially, well, she was, as I said, born in a log cabin. Her father was worked for the government and surveyed and made the maps of Iowa and Kansas and all out there. He was the one who made those maps. He
wow.
traveled all over and made those maps. And that's what he did for a living. And her mother ran a boarding house, which I think really supported the family. And they moved around as he moved around, they moved around, and she kept starting boarding houses everywhere. So when the Civil War broke out, they were actually a northern family, and they decided they were in Arkansas at the time. They couldn't stay there. So they went to Washington, D.C., or at the time, Washington City is what it was called. Okay. And anyway, she had these dreams that she would become this wonderful artist, but she had no money. And she had this, she got some training, and the wonderful thing happened for her was she got to work from Lincoln, to actually draw and sketch him and make clay models of him, because she was born in a log cabin. He said, he said, send her to me. If she was born in a log cabin, I was born in a log cabin too.
Oh,
So she would go in during his nap time for half an hour and do these sketches. And when he was assassinated, it turned out she was the only one who had worked from him from life. And she was about 17, 18 years old. She was a very small woman, less than 5 foot, very, very tiny woman, and looked very young. And so she was suddenly in the limelight as this young girl who had actually worked from life from Lincoln. And that kind of gave her a chance to do the art. But what I found when I was an artist, it's very hard to sell your fine art, although you might want to talk to my sister about that because she's a fine artist. It's very hard to earn a living on creating art. And I said, doing oil paints and things, but we started a sheep farm, and I thought, well, I could do something with the wool. And so I started making hand-woven scarves and capes and so on to support the family. So I wasn't really doing the art that I had dreamed of, but I was creating art and selling it and doing very well. I did craft fairs all over the East Coast. I used to come to the Nassau Coliseum
ah,
and
wow. Okay.
do the craft shows there. So, and then I was able to get my work sold I don't remember, B. Altman's. Do you remember B. Altman's? And at
Okay.
Bloomingdale's in New York City.
Okay.
And they bought my weavings,
Wow.
and they were sold in Bloomingdale's and Altman's, and also in Punta Mayo. And at one point, Bloomingdale's asked me to come and as part of a Made in America campaign and weave. So I had my loom set up at the top of the escalator
Oh, wow.
in New York City, and I'm weaving on my loom, and every person asked me what country I came from, because I couldn't possibly be an American and know how to weave. So it was a very interesting experience because I kept saying, but it says this is a Made in America campaign.
That's funny.
So,
But that's
so,
amazing.
so what happened with Vinnie Ream is she ended up having to, because of her family situation, and this novel is really about family. It's about when you really care about your family, what sacrifices you will make in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And she ended up doing what I did, not necessarily making the things that she wanted to make, but making things that would sell and earn
Mm-hmm.
money. So, for example, she did a bust of Ezra Cornell, who some people might know was the founder of Cornell University, and that bust is still there. And she made hundreds and hundreds of busts of Lincoln and
Mm-hmm.
so on. And she did a lot of the politicians of the times and so on. Anyway, so I enjoyed putting my own art background, she worked in clay, she worked in all things that I have actually done.
Right.
So I had a lot of experience
Mm-hmm.
to be able to write about that, and also about the fact that she couldn't create the artwork of her heart. She had to create artwork that would sell.
Right.
Because there's a difference between the two. Sometimes what you want to create isn't very saleable. And
No, I hear you.
That's true in books too.
You're right. You're right. And it's like what's on the trend and, all that kind of junk.
Exactly. Anyway, so biographical historical fiction is not a big seller, but for people who really enjoy learning about interesting people, it's a great way to do it. You can read a biography, but what I try to do is I read all her letters, I read her diaries, and I've done this with all the women, and really tried to get their inner thoughts. And so when I write my books, they are in the first person, so you really feel like you are that person, and you're living her life.
I like that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to bring not just her actions, but her thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of that you can get from the diaries and the letters.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things I really enjoy about writing these. And the other thing is the historical fiction I write to spread the word, to reach people about these interesting stories. And so all of the profits are donated to the Freedom to Read Foundation of the
Which I
American
think
Library
is so
Association.
nice, Joan. That is like super. I mean, just that alone is so honorable, and I'm sure they're so thankful for you for all your donations.
Well, and that's why people should buy the book, because you're really helping librarians.
Exactly. Now, when you were researching like all these diaries and letters and stuff, where were they? Were they in like a library or a museum, or like what, how did you get a hold of those things?
Well, at the time I started researching her, there was a website online that had been created by one of her relatives, descendants, I should say. It's very interesting, but after she passed away, her husband remarried, and his new wife preserved her memory. It was like she spent her life preserving Vinnie Ream's memory. So
that was really nice.
So, for example, they still have her guitar. You can still get the music. She was a composer. She was very gifted. I mean, she could have been a musician. She played the guitar. She played the piano. She played the harp.
Wow.
And the harp plays an important role in the story. And then she wrote music. She composed music. She put poems and poetry to music. And they're still online. But at the time I was researching, they had put all of her diaries and letters online. Now it's not there anymore. I don't know what happened, whether that person stopped maintaining the website or something. That sometimes happens. But there's also a book that was written by one of the relatives that has a lot of the original documents in it. And so I had that. Her materials are also in the Library of Congress.
Okay, okay. I was just curious. I had a feeling, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, well, that's where you would find them if you want to actually handle the originals. Now, for my other uh, woman, Anna Dickinson, I actually went to the Library of Congress, and because she had what we call photo albums, but she used to put her news clippings, and she had all these albums, and they would just bring it out to you, and you could touch these things from the
Wow.
1860s, and they didn't even have staples or glue. She had everything pinned in with straight pins.
Uh,
It was one of those black paged
yeah,
albums.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a few people that wrote in. I just want to see what they said. They might have a question for you. Um, the person wrote, this is from Krista Bedwin. I was online gathering to Tuesday led by 20-something women from Washington, and she's bringing weaving back to America too. We were there all from around, people were there from all around the world. And then somebody wrote, oh, and then she also wrote, I agree. It's wonderful to have this in fictional form. It's so much more fascinating. So thank you for putting that note in there, Kristen.
Okay. Yeah, I think that if you want to learn about people, biographies are fine. But what the new style of biography is to take a topic. So each chapter deals with a topic, and it doesn't do a timeline of the person's life. And I think that seeing the growth of a person over time is a really good way to not only learn about the person, but also to see in your own life how you grow and change as you learn. So at the beginning of this book, she's 16.
Mhm.
Okay. And I ended the book with her marriage, her marriage, because that was like the happiest point in her life. And I did that because you can't really cover an entire life in a novel. You can, but then you can't get as deep into the
Yeah, and the
interesting
book would
part.
be just way too long.
Anyway, so but I do cover the rest of her life in the author's note, and
Okay.
an interesting thing is that when she got married to Lieutenant Richard Hoxsey, who was he was an engineer. He's one of the men who designed Washington D.C.'s original sewer system.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Somebody
so
has to design it.
so so he had his own life and his own career. So when she married him, she knew that she was going to have to give up her. Most of the art at that time she was doing was this to earn money to support her family. But he was wealthy enough that he could support her family and her. So she knew that she was giving that up. And she married him, but she did love him, and they had a good marriage. That thing, but she did have to give it up. And then she had her child, who it's not clear from the records what happened, but he was handicapped. He was a handicapped child, and he must have required a lot of care. There's an interesting photo of her with her harp and the little boy, who's probably about 7 or 8, sitting next to her. But there must have been a vase of greens or flowers of some kind, and it's all been torn apart, and the flowers are on the ground, and the little boy's holding it and sticking it through the harp strings. So you can, so you can kind of see that it was not. And this is a formal photograph, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't quite in control. So um, he lived at home with them until she died, and he was only institutionalized after she died. So I think he required a lot
Yeah,
of
a lot of
attention.
help. Yeah,
So a lot
yeah.
of attention. She at the end of her life, she was giving classes to children doing sculpture work. So she obviously loved
Yeah.
children. Um, and she did do two final sculptures right before she died. In fact, the last one was Sequoia, the Cherokee man who invented the writing for the Cherokee, and she did the head and the top, but she never got to finish the bottom. Somebody else finished that, but it is in the Capitol.
Okay.
Um, and so she has 2 other sculptures in the Capitol besides her Lincoln. Now, I should talk about her Lincoln. All right.
Yes,
Everybody,
we need to talk about
okay,
that.
everybody's probably seen this sculpture but doesn't know the history. It sits in the rotunda. It's the standing Lincoln holding the Emancipation Proclamation. And it's in the backdrop of almost every state occasion that's held there. Like Jimmy Carter's funeral. It was right. It was in all the pictures. You could see it standing there. That was done by her. That was her first, full size sculpture. So,
Amazing.
oh,
That's amazing. Somebody else wrote here that from JTEEUWE, fantastic longtime friend, so very proud of you. So I'm sure you know who that is.
it's nice that friends are tuning in. I
Yeah, that is
tried to
nice.
spread the word, and because this is a book I'm really really happy with and proud of,
Oh,
and I do want to share it, and I hope everybody will share it. I do have signed copies. If people would like to order them from me, you can order a signed copy. Just go to my website and look for where it's under books, signed copies, and I will send you a signed copy.
yes. And everybody who is watched, I mean, we have some people on live now, but I will post it on my Instagram so anyone can see it at any time. It doesn't matter what time of day. And then it will be on YouTube as well. But so it'll always be here. So we can always go back and rewatch it. And like you said, if they would like a signed copy, they could go to joankoster.com. And also, we definitely recommend you signing up for Joan's newsletter because there are ways of winning, raffles and that gorgeous mug that you had showed us earlier. So yeah, it's exciting. And Joan, yay! Also, to mention again, Joan's this book was just like on Amazon, a #1 new release. And right now you could get it on Kindle for 99 cents. Is that correct, Joan?
Yeah,
So that's a deal. I mean, what can you buy for 99 cents? You can't even buy a pack of double mint gum.
right.
They don't even.
It's only till Saturday. So,
Yes, only till Saturday. Yeah, I didn't know how long it was. So
yeah.
I would advise anyone and everybody, even if you don't have time to read it now, go take it, download it, because it'll be on your Kindle and you can read it when you're ready and you have the time. But it's not going to be 99 cents forever. And that, to
No.
me, that's like free, I think it would be silly not to download it for the 99 cents,
Yeah. And there's an audiobook coming if people are
Yes.
interested. The same narrator who narrated my other books is doing this one. She started on it. You can't actually get an audiobook made until after the book is out. So
Oh, is
that's how
that
that
how
works.
it works? I
Yeah.
didn't know. Okay, so
Yeah.
you have to have everything done, the print, the Kindle, then they do the audio.
Yes.
Okay.
Anyway, but she does a great job, and she'll make you feel like this woman's really talking to you.
Oh, how
Yeah.
nice. Well, your other audiobooks were fantastic, so I'm sure this one is going to be just as good, if not better. It just seems like, Joan, you just get better and better and better. So, your friends are proud of you. Your readers are proud of you. Everybody's so proud of you. And we're so, happy to, have you as an author and writing about all these fantastic women. We need more authors like you because we need to know about these special women, these in our lives. We wouldn't be here today, in this form if it wasn't for people like her. So we definitely congratulate you and thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we appreciate you coming on the show. Can you just show your book one more time? Because it is such a gorgeous cover. Yeah,
Okay.
beautiful.
And she's wearing this is a medallion that was given to her by one of the archbishops in Rome that she
Oh,
did a bust of. And that's an interesting part of the book, is that story.
very nice. See, so people got to get this book just so they could find out what the cover is about and all these little tidbits that you gave us,
Oh,
I think
there's a
that's,
lot. She had a lot of interest in. She knew a lot of important people. Well, let me put it this way: Liszt wrote her wedding march.
wow.
Okay, so she knew a lot of
Amazing.
important people of the time. In fact, I have
Yeah.
a list at the back.
She
Almost every,
she was the who's who of America.
well, at that time period, definitely. She knew all the politicians. She knew the presidents. She knew, as I said, the founder of Cornell. She knew some explorers. That's a whole other story. That's in the back of the book.
Amazing.
And yeah.
Well, one last thing before you go, and not to deflate Prairie Cinderella, but do you have anything new on the horizons that you're working on?
Well, as you know, I have an alter ego, Zara
Yes.
West, and she's and she's writing Drift on the Tide,
Oh,
which is
okay.
a book, a romantic suspense set in Nova Scotia, and it's all about the theft of lobsters.
Wow. Very interesting. So you go from one extreme to the other, but I love it. And maybe that's what keeps you ticking,
Well,
because it's, it's not just historical women. It's just not that thriller, suspenseful romance. You know what I'm saying? So that's good, Joan. I love that. So now, when is that book coming out?
sometime this year, later
Okay.
this year,
So
probably
you're
in the
still
fall.
working on it.
Yeah. But what I try to do is put a little bit of the thriller. There's a murder in here in my
Okay.
historical fiction, and I put a little bit of history in my romantic suspense.
That's good. So no matter what you read from Joan or AKA Zara West, you're going to learn something. And personally, I love, walking away from a book that you learn something, I mean, yes, it was entertaining, but I also learned a lot too. Like, I wouldn't known about these people if it was, if I didn't read the book, type of thing, So, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that feels that way. So again, we thank you for all your education and fun. But thanks for coming on, Joan. I appreciate it. And we'll have you back again for the, what was it called? The Drift on the Tide.
Yeah, Adrift on the Tide.
Yep, by Zara West. Thanks, Joan.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.